All right, Shalom. First and foremost, when I start off by giving all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Marakah Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and well, peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect, the Bayath, Dawadah, the house of David. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. All right, so this is 2nd Ezra, chapter 15. In verse number 1, it says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. And that's the Bible, right? It says, Fear none of the imaginations against thee, that let not the incredulity, which means unbelief, of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. It says, Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, right? Famine, death, and destruction. You see? It says, For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Right? So now let's go here to 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, in the 1st verse. It says, And he answered me then, and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest parts of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes, and yes, we have been seeing earthquakes and many different other things, and uproars of the people, that's going on around the whole complete world. It's going on, everywhere. It says, Then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of these things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. It says, For like as all that is made in the world have a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Right? It says, Even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonder and powerful works and endings and effects and signs. Okay? Alright, so let's go here real quick to Revelation. Right? Matter of fact, before we do that, let's go to here. Let's go to here. Numbers 23 and 19. Right? It says, Yahweh is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Have he said, and shall he not do it? Or have he spoken, and shall he not make it good? Now let me get Isaiah 55. Isaiah 55 and 11. Right? It says, So shall my word be that goeth forth out my mouth, and it shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. See, there you go. Right? Because the word of the Lord is faithful and true, and it's purified 7 times into the earth. You see? So let me get this here in Revelation 22. Revelation 22 and verse number 6. And it reads, it says, And he said unto me, These things are faithful and true, and the Lord Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, of the prophets, sent his angel, saith, to show unto his servants the things which must surely be done. It says, Behold, I come quickly, blessed is he that keepeth the sayings of the prophecy of this book. Right? So now let's go here. Let's go here. So this is the USSR, right? Which is the Union, which is the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, right? The USSR, or the Soviet Union, was a vast communist state that existed from 1922 to 1991, emerging from the Russian Revolution as the world's first Marxist communist nation, and becoming a global superpower composing 15 constituent republics like Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, right? known for a centralized economy, Cold War rivalry with the U.S. It says, and eventually collapsed into independent states. It says formation established in 1922, succeeding the Russian Empire after the 1970 Russian Revolution. It says composition initially formed by Russia. Belarusia, right, or Belarus, Ukraine, and the Caucasian Federation. It grew to include 15 republics by its end. It says including the Baltic states, Estonia, Libya, Lithuania, and Central Asian nations, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, right? Ideology. It says a socialist state based on Marxist principles characterized by the state control of property and centralized economy. It says global role, a major world power rivaling the United States during the Cold War. It says spearhead the first satellite, Sputnik, and human in space, Yuri Gagarin, right? Gagarin. It says defeated Nazi Germany in World War II. It says, but also faced initial famines and political purges and suppression of dissent. It says collapse. It says dissolved in 1991 following reforms under Mikhail Gorbachev. I don't know how you say it, but hey, it's close enough. It says leading to the independence of its constituent republics, right? Constant republics. It says the USSR dissolution marked of the end of the Cold War and created 15 new independent countries, with the Russian Federation inheriting much of its territory and status. All right. See? So now let's go here real quick. See if I got this here, if I got this article pulled up. All right. So this says Military Watch magazine, right? It says Soviet RSD, right? 10 immediate range ballistic missile. It says Europe's first immediate range missile in 47 years is now a combat alert in Belarus, right? In Belarus. In Belarus. Okay, or Belarus. Okay? Alright? So let me get this here. Let me get this here. In Joel, right? Joel, the third chapter. Joel, the third chapter. Let's go to the 9th verse. Right? And it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. And let the weak say, I am strong. You see? Okay, and that's what's going on right now, man. All right, as you can see, what's going on in the news and things of that nature, and wars and rumors of wars being talked about, according to what Yahweh Shai said. You see? Okay, wars and rumors of wars. All right, let's go and get that. So this is Matthew 24:6. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. See? Okay, because we know we gotta go through that trial, that tribulation. Jacob's trouble, that mark of the beast. Right? You know, that time of trouble, Jacob's trouble. You see? Martial law, race riot, class wars, civil wars, famine, pestilence, you know, and everything of that nature, man. These things are coming, right? So we got that there. Okay. So let's go back into here. It says Russian state media sources have released the first footage of the new Oreshnik. What is that? Oreshnik immediate range hypersonic ballistic missile, almost a year after a prototype was first combat tested against the Ukrainian targets in November 2024, and closely coinciding with its confirmed entry into frontline service. It says committing on the system's operationalization. It says the Russian Defense Ministry observed a solemn ceremony was held at the Republic of Belarus. It says for the unit outfitted with the Oreshnik, right, or Oreshnik road mobile missile system to assume combat duty. It says the flag of the strategic missile force was raised after the end of the military ritual of placing crews on combat duty. It says the statement elaborated that the launch combat crews, signal corps, security and power supply personnel, and driver mechanics had undergone advanced training on modern simulators to prepare for the system service entry. All right. It says the Oreshnik, it says, is the first ground-based intermediate, all right, range ballistic missile type to have become operational in Europe in close to half a century after intermediate range nuclear forces treaty signed in 1987 banned the deployments of such missiles by Russia and the United States. Excuse me, Slovakia. It says this resulted in the retirement of the perishing 1A short range and perishing 2 medium range ballistic missiles deployed by the United States Air Force, as well as the Soviet R-12 medium range and R-14 and RDS-10 intermediate range ballistic missiles, all right, and RK and RK-55 intermediate range cruise missiles. It says the United States withdrew from the treaty in 2018. It says it is expected to deploy ground-based Tomahawk cruise missiles launchers to multiply sites in Europe as a result. It says the Oreshnik is one of the Oreshnik is one of several formerly treaty-prohibited missile types that Russia is expected to field with footage from within the country, indicating that it has already procured the Song-2 medium-range ballistic missile from North Korea. All right. Let's read a little bit more. It says the Oreshnik was first confirmed in June to have entered the serial production and estimated to have 4,000 kilometer range, while carrying multiple independent retargetable warheads mounted on the hypersonic re-entry vehicles, which can maneuver and approach targets from unexpected directions. It says its penetrative compatibilities seriously limit the ability of traditional air defense systems such as Germany's recent procured Arrow 3 system to intercept them. It says satellite images indicate that multiple military facilities across Belarus It says, are being prepared to host the systems which will have access to nuclear warheads under the nuclear sharing agreement between Moscow and Minsk. All right. It says the systems delivery to the Belarusian, to the Belarusian armed forces complements prior deliveries of short range Iskander and ballistic systems. All right. It says the Oreshnik missile advanced capabilities prove Russia and Belarus with a means of asymmetrically countering NATO's collective conventional superiority, Slovakia. It says in a number of areas, most notable its air power of F-35 fifth-generation fighters deploying in growing numbers across Europe, as seen in pose of increasing serious threats to both countries. It says all the United States nuclear-sharing partners, including the United Kingdom, Belgium, and the Netherlands, Germany, Italy, Turkey, have placed orders for a nuclear-capable F-35A to be able to more efficiently deliver nuclear attacks. It says there have been indications from the Pentagon that further NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization members could be provided with access to nuclear weapons under new sharing agreements. All right. So let's go into some scriptures. All right. Let's go into Isaiah the 13th chapter. Isaiah the 13th chapter. And let's just go to we start at the first verse. It says, the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. It says, lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, and that's the Bible. The brothers is lifting up this Bible, lifting up the scriptures upon this high mountain, upon this high government. It says, exalt the voice, right? It means raise your voice, right? You see? It says, and show my people their transgressions, right? It says, shake the hand, right, that they may go into the gates of the nobles, right? And the gates of the nobles talk about the government, the higher ups, okay, the super higher ups. It says, and I have commanded my sanctified ones, and I have called my mighty ones from my anger. That's the angels, okay, and the sanctified ones are the Israelites, right, the chosen, the elect. It says, and even them that rejoice in my highness. And those, like I said, those are the angels, right? It says, and the elect is, it says, verse number 4, it says, the noise of the multitude in the mountains, like as a great people, a tumultuous noise of kingdoms, of nations gathered together. And that's going to be over in the Levant, right? That's where that's going to take place at, okay? These kingdoms is all going to come. You're going to have Moab over there. You're going to have Ammon over there. You're going to have all these kingdoms come over there. And they all going to be fighting in that Middle East. Right? Okay, World War III is going to take place. Right? Leading this thing is going to be Russia. That's going to come up against Babylon. All right? And going to come up against Israel as well. All right? Because that place over there, right, is going to get blown off the map by ICBM missiles, man. Intercontinental ballistic missiles, man. It's going to be shot off, man. All right. It says, and like as a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms and nations gathered together, that the Lord Yahweh, right, of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. It says they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even Yahweh, and the weapons of his indignation. And those weapons are going to be what? Those missiles too, right? And there's going to be the chariots, which is the angels. That was another form of the weapons of the Heavenly Father. And Yahweh Shai is coming with them, the high archangels, Michael, and so on and so forth, right? It's all those are all a part of Yahweh's army, right? Yahweh Shai is the right hand of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. You see? And they coming to get busy. Okay, this ain't no joke. This ain't no game. All right? Yahweh Shai gonna get his glory. All right, and all these kingdoms are going to be taken down. He's taking the crowns down of all these kingdoms. And the nation of Israel is going to be set up here on the earth, right? The house of David, right, is going to be set up. You see? Right? It says, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Right? Now let me go to Isaiah, the 34th chapter. Isaiah 34. Isaiah 34, we start at 1. It says, come near. It says, come near, ye nations, to hear and hearken, ye people, and let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord, right? See, now let's go here and let's read this here real quick in Isaiah, the 54th chapter, real quick, and we'll go back. Isaiah 54 and 16. It says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. What's that instrument? The ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, right? All these weapons that are being created, right, is going to be created for the day of destruction of Babylon the Great. All right, and by the enemies that's of this whore. All right. Because this whore doesn't realize that she's making a lot of enemies around the world. Okay? There's a lot of enemies that want to come up and just take this place out. Babylon the Great. Alright? It says an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy, and that's the missiles. You know? Okay, so let's go back to that Isaiah 34. Right? Isaiah 34, where we at? Verse number 2, it says, for the indignation of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies, and he hath utterly destroyed them, and he hath delivered them to the slaughter. It says, their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted, and their governments, right? Okay, shall be melted with their blood. Right? And all the host of heaven, shall be dissolved. Okay? And all their armies gonna be dissolved. What? By Yahweh Shai. Okay? By Yahweh Shai. By those missiles. Okay? And so on and so forth. But mainly by Yahweh Shai and the angels, right? Because they're gonna come get busy on Esau and all these other nations' armies, man. Alright? And those missiles that's gonna get touched down too. They're going to be part of the soil over there in the Levant, man. All right? Complete part of the soil. Okay? It says, and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and all the heaven shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as the falling fig from the fig tree. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven, right? And that's those missiles. All right, that's going to come from the outer atmosphere, and they're going to drop down here on this place, man. It says, bathe in heaven, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea. Idumea is a Greek way of saying Edom. Right? It says, and upon the people of my curse, Esau. It says, to judgment, going back to Cain. Right? Which, if you can receive it, Cain is Esau reincarnation. See that? It says, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood, right? With blood, and it is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, right? Because this is a sacrifice, right? It says, with the fat of the kidneys of rams, the Lord haveth a sacrifice in Bozrah. It says, in a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. All right? You see? It says for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of his recompenses for the controversy of Zion. And the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone. Right? Like I said, those missiles is going to have sulfur in it, right? And plus, you got all these 6G towers that's going to be up, 5G towers, you got volcanoes, you got everything. When these missiles touch down, this earth is going to rock to and fro, man. It's going to be a lot of radiation, right? In that water and so on and so forth, man. This place is going to be a desert, man. All right, it says in the land thereof, and missiles going to be shot off by Russia, and by them with their coming of constituents and NATO and all these things, man. And it says, "In the land thereof shall become burning pitch, and it shall not be quenched, nor night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever, from generation to generation, and it shall lie waste, and none shall pass through it forever and ever. But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it, and the owl also, and the raven shall dwell in it, and it shall stretch out upon the line of confusion." Right? That's going to be. America's gonna be totally obliterated. You ain't gonna know what state was where. This place is gonna be obliterated. It's gonna be a desert. All right. It says, "Upon the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness, and there shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all her princes shall be nothing. And the thrones shall come up in her palaces, and nettles and brandles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be a habitation of dragons, and a court for owls, and the wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the islands, and the strat shall cry to her fellow, and the screech owl also shall rest there, and find for herself a place of rest." And you can read about this in the book of Revelation as well. All right. It says, "And there shall the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch, and gather under the shadow, and there shall be virtues," right? Salakia, vultures. It says also be gathered, every one with her mate. See, every one with her mate, right? So let me go here, right? Let me go here to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, right? And it says, matter of fact, let me get this here real quick. Let me get this here real quick. Let me see if I saved it. Right, so they're going off here. Before I read a little bit more of these scriptures, I want to go into here and show you where they're going off at. But this is them breaking down the prophecy of Babylon being taken down, right? The end time prophecy, so to speak. It says from the world's wars to the Cold War to the current ongoing war in Ukraine, the name Russia has increasingly appeared in the headline and after headline. It says, often the center of so many or other most troubling global news. It says, there are just a few of clipped while scrolling in news feeds recently. It says, Russia warns of the Kabbalah repeat in the Ukraine due to NATO aid. It says, Russia-Ukraine war, Hungary signs new energy deals with Russia. It says UN, which is the United Nations, tally of Ukraine civilian deaths approaches 8,500. It says Russian and Chinese defense officials agree to strengthen defense ties. It says, but I am sure you think of many more that you've seen blurring across your TV screen or social media threats, wars, spies, alliances, trade deals. A list could go on and on, right? According to biblical prophecy, Russia will amass a coalition to invade Israel into the end times and find out that we will be invaded with it. It says, and it will happen, and it will means for us today. All right, so, when you go into here, all right, I'm going to show you where they go off at, right? So they go off right here because Rosh right here, this is talking about the son of Benjamin. That's not the name of Russia. All right, and I'm going to read this here, and then I'm going to go and show you, right? So let's go in here in Genesis real quick. I think it's Genesis, the 46th chapter. Genesis, I think it's the 46th chapter. All right. Let me see. Yeah, it's right here. All right, and then you go into here. Okay. It says ahead, right? Rosha, right? Head, a son of Benjamin, right? So they try to say that he was called the son of Benjamin. Not to say that there's not Israelites that are up, because we scattered about the four corners of the earth. There's not Israelites that are up there in Russia, but that's not what they are. It's Gog and Magog, right? So let's go back here real quick, right? It says Russia is identified as Rosh, right? Which is not right. Okay, the Gog and Magog, right? So they went off there. It says Ezekiel's prophecy 2,500 years ago, predicting an attack on Israel in the future. It says Russia's role in prophecy is significant and leads as an alliance of nations against, I don't really want to say that place too many times, but Israel. So let's just go ahead and say it. It says the alliance including nations such as the former stand countries, Turkey, Iran, Sudan, Libya, all right, and possibly Germany before Russia attacks. It says Israel must be present and prosperous and powerful in its own land. But, right, this place is going to be America. And even Israel, because Israel, right, Tiny Tops is running Babylon. Okay, they got their hands over here in Babylon. Okay, as you can see what's going on with Nero 47. You see? It says, and what he's setting up in the technocratical world and the things that's coming from the top, the Rothschilds, the 13th, the families are higher up, the super elites, man. All right? Should I go on even more? Okay? It says, where we at? Let's see this here. It says, in recent years, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has aggressively pursued reunification of the Soviet bloc. It says, and he has annexed, right, cinema, crept into the Republic of Georgia and invaded Ukraine, not only in the provoking of people of the Ussr of the Eurasia. It says, but the strong armed policies are also causing concern around the world, according to the Gallup poll. It says, and the public has constantly ranked Russia as the United States' second greatest enemy since 2015. It says newsfeeds swirl with the questions about the intentions, but perhaps we should ask ourselves this question: what does the Bible say about modern Russia? You see, the resurrection of Russia. You see, it says where to find Russia in the Bible. Right now, they go into Ezekiel 38, right? But they go off again, like I said, with the name here, right? With the name Ra'ash, right? Or Rosh. See, that's talking about it. That's a Benjamite. That's talking about the son of Benjamin. He come out of the tribe of Benjamin, right? You see? So that's not who they are. They're Gog and Magog, right? So let's read this. Let's read a little bit more of this, and then we're going to go back until we're going to get into scriptures. When we get back into the rest of the scriptures, we're going into the video. It says approximately 2,500 years ago, it says Ezekiel predicted the events that will occur in Russia's future. It says he begins at Ezekiel 38 with a long list of nations that will attack Israel. It says none of these nations are called Russia. The names that are not found among anywhere in the Bible says, however, the reference to Rosh in verse 2, it says a shortened version of the word Russia. No, that's not true. That's going off. That's not true at all. It says this can be determined, right? Lineagistically. It says and geographically, right? No. It says the Bible describes Rosh as being far to the north of Israel, which is the reference point for Ezekiel's original audience. No, that's not it. That's not it though. But that's not it. The Gog and Magog, right? And then they go off here again with the king of the north, right? And Daniel, which that's not it either. The king of the north and the king of the south is talking about the Seleucids and the Ptolemy Empire. All right, with the didactic wars. You see, so they going off here in a lot of this here, right? You see, But let's go down here, right? It says, who will join Russia's prophesied alliance? It says Magog, right? Gog is from the land of Magog, right? Meshach, Tubal, right? Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, Gomor, Togarmah, right? And we just wanted to bring this out real quick. You know, let's go back into the scriptures. All right, so let's go back into the scriptures. Let's go back into Ezekiel 38. So Ezekiel 38, right? Let's go into Ezekiel 38. Ezekiel 38 and 1. It says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog in the land of Magog. It says the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. It says, and say, thus saith Yahweh, thus saith the Lord Yahweh. It says, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Right? It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. Right? It says, that's that USSR spirit. Right? That's coming back amongst them. Right? It says, and I will bring thee forth, and all thy army, horses and horsemen, and all them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, and all of them with shield and helmet, Gomor and all his bands with the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. It says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. It says, and after many days thou shalt be visited in the latter years, that thou shalt come into the land that I brought back from the sword, and gather out many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely of all of them. All right. Here, let's read this here. It says, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm, and thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, and thou and all thy bands and many people with thee, and thus saith the Lord Yahweh. It says, it shall also come to pass that at that same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, and thou shalt say, I will go up into the land of the unwalled villages, that's Babylon, right? And I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon thy desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, and that dwell in the midst of the land. All right? Okay? So now, let's go to Jeremiah 50. Jeremiah 50, and we start at verse number 1. It says, the word of the Lord spake against Babylon, and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. It says, declare ye among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard, publish and conceal not, right? Meaning don't hold it back. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded, Merodach is broken in pieces, and her idols are confounded, and her images are broken into pieces. It says, for out of the north there cometh a nation against her. That's Russia, right? Okay, it says, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein, and they shall depart both man and beast. All right. We jump down here to verse number 9. Right, it says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as a mighty expert men. Now shall return in vain. It says, and the Chaldea shall be as a spoil, and all that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. It says, because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, and O ye destroyers of my heritage, because ye are grown fat as a heifer, at grass, and bellow as bulls, your mother shall be sore confounded, and she, and that's America, that's Babylon. It says, and she that bear you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be as a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. See that? It says, and because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babylon shall be established, and hiss at her plagues. It says, put yourselves in array against Babylon, round about all ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord. Okay? Alright, so let me get Jeremiah 49 real quick. I kind of read them backwards, but that's okay. You know, let me get Jeremiah 49 and let's go to verse number 7. Right? We're just going to go there. It says, prophecy concerning Edom. Now, this is prophecy concerning against all of our enemies, concerning Psalms, the 83rd chapter. Right? But I just want to jump right down here to the prophecy concerning Edom, because that's who's mainly in control right now. Now, all these other nations are in cahoots with Esau, Edom. Right? But they're all going to be obliterated with Esau, Edom. And they're all going to be vassals in the kingdom, right? It says, concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is the wisdom vanished? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee ye and turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan. It says, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. If grape gatherers come unto thee, will they not leave some gleaning grapes? If these by night, they will destroy till they have enough. But I have made Esau bare, and I have uncovered his secret places. Right, and his secret places are being uncovered. And that's right. He's being bare. He can't be hid. You see? It says his seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. It says, leave thy fatherless children, and I will preserve thee alive, and let thy widows trust in me. It says, for thus saith the Lord, behold, but they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken, and art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? And thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. And that's right, this man is going to go into slavery. He's going to be a vassal. It says, for I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, that Bozrah shall become a desolation, right? And Bozrah is modern day Babylon the Great, right? It says, and shall become a desolation and a reproach, a waste and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be a perpetual waste. And I have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is set against the heathen, saying, gather ye together and come against her, and rise up to battle. The battle. It says, for lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, right? And it's small among the heathen and despised amongst men. All right. It says, and that's those small hats, right? It says, thy terribleness have deceived thee. It says, in thy pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. We know who that is. That's Esau, Edom. It says, and thou holdest thy height of the hill. It says, and thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, and I will bring thee down from thence, saith Yahweh. It says, also Edom shall be a desolation, every one that goeth by. It shall be astonished, and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities thereof, saith Yahweh. No man shall abide there. It says, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. All right. Hey, so with that, I want to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakah Kodash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of well, peace and blessings and citation to the hopeful elect, the Bayat, Dawadah, the house of David.